What's up? It's Dominic D'Angelo. It's Rumor and Innuendo. I'm ready for a Lambo leap because I am here with Robert Karpelis, WWE Creative _ish for the the next episode of Rumor and Innuendo.
What breaking news were you starting with here, Dom? Did you just cancel our show?
We're done, everybody.
What is it with me and co-hosts canceling shows? Sometimes by comments, sometimes just by outright saying it. But glad to be here today for what is not the final episode of Rumor and Innuendo. Might be Dom's last episode, but we'll see. Hell of a show we got to talk about here today. We're going to talk some WWE news. We're going to talk some AEW news, some free agent rumors, and right off the bat in the comments section, Travis Wadlow, Liv is such a hot crier.
Wow.
Yikes. Thanks, Travis, for sharing your darkest, innermost thoughts to tens of thousands of people watching all over the world. Really appreciate it. And then the wrestling old head said, good after morning, SummerSlam Heart and Soul revisited. Okay. I don't know what's going on here, dude. I'm firing on all cylinders. I'm excited. Got some fun things to talk about at the end of the show today. But right here at the top, Mr. D'Angelo, where are we going?
We're going to be talking WWE Monday Night Raw.
I just did the thing. Here's what we're talking about. Like, what are we starting with? Go.
That's okay. I'm all over the place. Hey, we had.
I love it.
How did the show?
Fun peek behind the curtain. Dom sent the rundown and link like 4 minutes ago, and he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm running out. I will do this." So, flying by the seat of our pants. But the good news is, we both watched Monday Night Raw last night, right, Mr. D'Angelo?
We did. Hey, so it kicked off with Damian Priest and Gunther just brawling it out. That's how they're really selling the pay-per-view for that, or the PLE for these guys, making it heated. What did you think of this? Good way to kick off Raw? Was it? Did it elevate the feud a little bit more? Did it get you more invested a little bit, Robert? Where do you stand on that?
So, I think the problem that they've kind of run into was last week. They knocked it out of the park with the Gunther Damian Priest segment. They set the table beautifully. This idea of the snobs versus slobs, rich versus poor, haves and have-nots is the narrative. So Damian Priest in this narrow world is the babyface, and Gunther is the evil heel. You really couldn't elaborate any further on it. They hit every note perfectly. So the idea is, how do we get to SummerSlam without really doing a lot of anything? So you had Gunther come out and sort of repeat and rehash what he said before. There's something slightly terrifying about hearing that very thick accent talking about judgment and levying judgment. It's just something in my ancestral DNA that made me very nervous.
Got you on pins and needles.
Got me a little worried. But then Priest comes out, just guns a-blazing, and they're just brawling. And it's kind of a cheat for booking, where it's just, we'll just do a pull apart, and then we'll do another pull apart and throw both guys out of the arena. And we've seen it a number of times with like Brock. That was sort of the default with Lesnar, it's a pull apart. We can't let these people stay in the arena. My God, we've got to separate them. So it feels more personal. It feels like Damian Priest is taking what Gunther is saying about his championship reign, his accomplishments in the company, who he is as a performer. He's taking it to heart, and he wants to beat up Gunther. And it works because this feud was sort of, they backed into it. The idea here was Gunther won King of the Ring, and he was going to face whoever the winner was. So it's a nice way to heat it up. We knew there was going to be a Gunther package later on in the show, which I thought was really well done. And yeah, I mean, I'm as excited for this match now as I was before. I think it'll be a very good match. It's certainly not the marquee match, but a lot of interesting possibilities can happen coming off of it.
That's what I'm thinking, Robert. I liked it. I liked, two big dudes, very on opposite sides of the street. So, figuratively and literally when it comes to that kind of stuff. And they line up pretty well with one another from size perspective and everything like that. So it's pretty complimentary. And then just having them brawl it out, it's something we've seen and been there before. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's like this is pro wrestling. It's simple storytelling. You can really execute this and make it work. But I want to say too, this is kind of off. Dude, I like the fact that Gunther doesn't come out in a suit like everybody does. He comes out in a t-shirt and it's different. You know,
I miss the suit. I liked the jacket, but him in the t-shirt with this, he looks like he's a bouncer.
He looks like he's Arnold though in the late 90s.
All right, I'll give you that. I prefer him with at least with a coat, because when he would come out there in the coat with the t-shirt underneath it, it's a little Night at the Roxbury.
That's great. I want to see him in that skit now.
He would kill it in that, by the way.
Wouldn't he? He would do really well there.
He's a little more wild and crazy guys.
Yes. A little bit. Just maybe, a little bit more of that, I think. But yeah, I just like the presentation of it all. I did. So this is something I did want to bring up yesterday, but we had a lot to cover on a Monday. So Damian Priest having a live show at SummerSlam. And they're promoting WWE 24, his documentary there with all that. Is this maybe an indication that they're really putting the chips behind Damian and he could actually beat Gunther at SummerSlam?
They're putting the chips behind him, and no, he's not going to beat Gunther at SummerSlam.
Okay.
It really feels like we are at the tipping point for what's going to wind up happening with Judgment Day.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2 weeks from now, Judgment Day is going to look a lot different than it does right here today, in part because of the Damian Priest match, in part because what we're seeing with Rhea and Dom. So we'll unpack that in a moment, but we may as well touch on the Rhea Ripley, Dominic D'Angelo segment. Not Dominic. Wow.
Hey,
Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah. Hey, hook me up.
Stop. She's into guys with weird facial hair named Hey. This could be your opportunity, man.
Right?
Yes. Anyway, what did you think of Rhea and Liv and Dom and Travis Wadlow's embracing of her crying?
Well, he did add, he's like, wouldn't want to make Liv cry. It just wasn't ugly, he said. Well,
you could have just let that one roll. We didn't have to go back.
I wanted to kind of help him out a little bit.
No. He knows. Look, he's at least more protected than Wardlow. Remember Wardlow, that this dude that used to be in. He used to be in AEW, and now he's, I guess, parking cars somewhere. I don't know what happened to that guy.
Man, he needs to be somewhere good. But yeah, Robert, I was surprised. I think this is just like obviously like a little, red herring that Dom hates Liv. I think we're going to get a little bit more, obviously. But I think I liked the execution of it. I liked, Dom being the pawn, like being moved around and like, all this kind of stuff. And then him finally taking a stand against Liv. I was kind of shocked about it, though. I did not expect him to just go all right, like scorched earth feeling with it. But
it's because I think they're over telegraphing it.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem we're running into right here, which is there's a situation where this is setting up Dom turning on Rhea and aligning himself with Liv.
Yeah.
And I also then see Liv ripping his heart out and throwing it into a trash can. The wrinkle in all this, the wrinkle between the Rhea Ripley Dom stuff and the Damian Priest Gunther stuff is Finn Balor.
Yeah.
So Finn has been the only guy who's been fixated on the reputation of Judgment Day. It's why he was encouraging, like, we're going to go after Jey Uso. You need to stand up to Jey Uso. You need to stop focusing on Liv. We need to be more serious. Oh, Priest, you want me to step behind you? Fine, I'll step behind you. But look what I got done. I won the tag titles. He also took that room key from Liv.
Yeah.
So there is a situation, there is a scenario, there is a chessboard here where this ends with Finn and JD and Liv as some sort of heel group with a babyface Rhea. But then it's like, well, what do you do with Dom? I don't want to see Dom as a babyface.
Right.
But I think that's kind of how this will shake out. And I think that Finn, he's already a heel, a double heel, to double secret probation heel turn for Finn Balor will ultimately lead to what costs Priest being the world champion.
Do you think, could you envision it being Finn, JD, Liv, and Dom? Like Liv doesn't drop him, like, kind of, like right after the fact, even though it seems like obviously she's using him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, you could just continue that, right? And he's still this obnoxious heel. You could kind of lean into that a little bit, or this desperate heel. If you will.
He's definitely desperate, and he's definitely obnoxious, and he's definitely a heel. He's a better Sammy Guevara in a lot of ways, because he's a guy that I just can't see being a babyface. I can't see the crowd cheering for him, but he's a guy you love to hate. Like, they love booing the hell out of Dom. They love hating on Dominic Mysterio, and it makes for a lot of fun. I guess the third big story coming out of Monday Night Raw is, yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus, and yes, there's going to be a CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre match, with the wrinkle that the wrestling old head was referencing.
Yes.
Was the idea that this is going to be Shawn Michaels versus, Bret Hart versus The Undertaker at SummerSlam 97, with Shawn as the referee. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you feel this execution came across?
I liked it, I think. Yeah, I liked
it. I think that is as definitive as you get from fence sitter Dominic D'Angelo.
I did. I had to think about it, because I'm trying to think if there was anything that really like caused me, if they could have done it better. And I don't think so. I think they did all right with it. Like, Punk comes out, says he's cleared. That gets a huge pop. Obviously, Drew McIntyre backstage shook hands and mended fences with, Adam Pearce and the referees. So he's reinstated. It led into that. I'm just like, with Seth as a ref, it makes sense from a storyline standpoint. I'm not like, boom. It's like, but I think it sets up more. I think I get more excited for the fact that we're going to see more of Drew and CM Punk after this fact. So I do like that. So yeah, I was very much in favor of, man, CM Punk has a great head of hair.
Does have a great head of hair.
Yeah.
So this accomplished a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
Rollins has been hanging around this storyline in part because we did not know if CM Punk was necessarily going to be cleared. He legitimately got cleared over the weekend at the Performance Center. So if for some reason he wasn't, boom, you slide Seth Rollins right in there and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
You're not outright doing a triple threat match, which I think was a path they could have gone, but you're taking the pressure off of Punk.
Right.
This is Punk's first match back since the Royal Rumble. So you need a little smoke and mirrors. Otherwise, there'd be no spot on the card for Seth Rollins. And you don't want him in the Jey Uso situation. Though, to my knowledge, Seth Rollins' dad doesn't have a YouTube channel where he's constantly complaining about how his son is being booked. We love you, Rikishi. But no, Seth is, if nothing else, he's an insurance policy. He's there to ensure that the performance out of these guys is going to be as confident as it can be. And guys, if you're concerned about ensuring that your performance is as confident as it can be, can we talk to you about the Seth Rollins for your wiener Blue Chew? This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. If you want to be as hard as the summer day is long, then get yourself a Blue Chew and bring the summer heat. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in chewable form. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. The best part, it's all done online. No visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. We know Seth Rollins' entrances take forever, but they're always satisfying, just like you'll be in bed and you'll leave her chanting, whoa, for about 45 minutes after. This has gone off the rails, and I love it because Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. The architect of your ding dong. Discover your options at BlueChew.com, and we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code RUMOR at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code RUMOR to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this episode of Rumor and Innuendo.
You booked that really well, Robert. And I tell you what, they couldn't have booked it better, I think, with Sami Zayn and building up with Braun Breaker. I think I've got pretty more invested in it. And hey, listen, I really like this aspect of like, hey, them kind of giving away these Dragunov Breaker matches, like inconsistent. It's like, I'm not tired of them at all. And it's kind of fun. And now we are getting Breaker versus Sami Zayn, and I'm all for it at SummerSlam.
Yeah. The finish was a little, people didn't love it.
Right.
And you weren't supposed to love it. The idea was, how many times can Braun Breaker pin Ilya Dragunov, or can Dragunov pin Braun Breaker? So the idea that it was a referee stoppage, that these guys are so hard hitting and they're doing everything they can to get this opportunity, that they're putting their bodies on the line, makes it compelling. It makes whoever gets that chance at the Intercontinental title that much more valuable. And then the moment at the end where Braun spears Sami after the main event, that's all you need. That was all you needed. Next week's Raw, they kind of have written off. They know it's going to be, they're trying to stack it. They're giving you Finn Balor versus Gunther, which, kids, if they really take the restrictor plate off a little bit, that could be a hell of a fun match.
Oh, yes.
Two very, prominent European wrestlers just going at it. But they know it's on Sci-Fi. You're up against the Olympics, and the only slight advantage that they have is most people aren't necessarily watching Raw live, or they're like, I tune into USA and they're not there. It's set for your DVR. It's going to pop up on there, or you're watching it on Hulu, or whatever that may be. So you'll find it. They're promoting the hell out of the fact that it's going to be on Sci-Fi. And the Olympics themselves, because you're in France and it's a 6-hour time difference, it's not live.
Right.
So you may hear, hey, here are some things you definitely want to make sure you go out and check and see. But because it's not live, there's a certain section of the audience that's going to know what happened. So it's, hey, if I really need to see this swim meet, I need to see this gymnastics routine, I need to see this shot put, I can tape that, and I want to make sure I watch Raw live. But they know it's going to be a softer number going into SummerSlam. So for all intents and purposes, this was very much your go-home show to SummerSlam. Everything's set, everything's in place, and when in doubt, just do those brutal Lyra Valkyria matches.
It's I feel bad for her because it's like she's just kind of in a stopgap kind of thing with this trio stuff. And
well, she went from being a bird to now she's a girl who goes to clubs.
It's so weird. When they were coming out with the, like, I don't know, party guns, I was like, what is going on here?
Dude, I don't know. But you know what I want to know what's going on is you, as a writer for SE Scoops, heck of a day for those folks over at SE Scoops. Nice day for Mr. Shalick. What do you want to tell us that was sort of broken in part by our friends at SE Scoops, who are streaming us live right now?
That's right. So there is an AEW deal in principle with Warner Brothers Discovery, according to, yes, us at SCScoops.com. All Elite Wrestling and Warner Brothers Discovery have an agreement in principle to keep AEW on Turner Network for the next several years. According to sources in the television industry, AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery's deal would add AEW content to the Max streaming platform, including pay-per-views. It's unknown how much AEW would earn moving pay-per-views to streaming, but hey, wow, what big news here for not just AEW, but pro wrestling in general, because it elevates everything when stuff like this happens. So happy to hear this for AEW, happy to hear this for pro wrestling. And it creates opportunity for Tony Khan to really get his product across here. I think he can really kind of tailor it and make it something and make it mean a lot more here if he takes himself out of the element in a lot of ways. Robert, what do you think of this news?
Here's the asterisks.
Okay.
Number one, this is his lawyer who does complex negotiations for a living when not doing this. An agreement in principle and an agreement are two very different things.
Yeah.
either party can wind up walking away at any time until pen is put to paper and there's a signature. And I always say, until I get a DocuSign email in my inbox saying this thing is a done deal, it is not a done deal. The reason why I'm saying that is Turner is still making a play for the NBA rights. The 1.8 billion, I believe, is the figure that Amazon was looking to spend. Turner is willing to try and match that or try and beat that to keep the NBA. So there's only so many dollars in the coffers, which may impact how much AEW ultimately winds up getting when they sign the deal. The piece that we do not know is when they say that pay-per-views are going to be on Max, if that's the archive or if that's new pay-per-views going forward or what that is going to look like. So there's still a lot of moving pieces. We don't know how long it's going to be for, what network it's necessarily going to be on, if it's going to remain the way that it is now on TBS and TNT. It's a larger Warner Discovery world. I know there were conversations last year about the potential of some of their programming moving over to Discovery. That was why they had that the little person wrestling show. We had some of those folks on air for some short interviews, and we kind of teed it up that maybe this is Discovery testing the waters to air some AEW programming. So it's great news in principle. I still don't think I would have done MJF and Ospreay last week, but that's beside the point. I've beaten that drum to death. But it's great that AEW will have the opportunity to stick around for a long time and be able to refresh the coffers so they can go afford Bobby Lashley and MVP.
If you're Tony Khan,
I'd be much shorter.
He's taller than me at least, but that's not saying much.
I have no point of reference. We've never stood face to face.
Actually met, yeah.
This may be like when we go to Vegas for WrestleMania next year. That may be the first opportunity that we get to meet in person. What a moment that'll be! It'll be the Hogan Savage hug, the handshake, brother. I remember walking by Tony Khan, and I was like, "Oh, wow, that answers a lot of questions." Anyway, if I was Tony Khan,
if you were Tony Khan, are you hedging your bets? Or I making plays with other networks and stuff like that, because I believe the exclusive rights window is closed now, so he can make offers to whoever he wants to.
So if you have an agreement in principle,
good
faith and fair dealing here would be that no, you're not going to then turn around and go try to talk to other people. The idea is we've ironed everything out. We're going to reduce this to a document and let the lawyers haggle back and forth. Mm-hmm. So moving decimal places and things like that is what's probably going on at the moment, sharpening the pencil on the details, but the broad strokes of AEW isn't going anywhere is the news.
Right. Wrestling Oldhead puts a question out here. Could AEW generate profit from putting pay-per-views on streamings exclusively by doing a deal?
They'll again, we don't know any of the specifics, but the theoretical answer here is Max is going to pay for the rights to air these pay-per-views as streaming exclusive, at least within the US, sort of similar to what WWE does with Peacock. So the Universal deal that they have with NBC Universal, the Peacock world, they pay for the exclusive rights to air those PLEs. They worked out the economics and said, okay, if you would have done this on pay-per-view, you would have made X amount of dollars based on buys. We're going to guarantee you Y amount of dollars right now, and we're going to be the only place that airs it. And then you have the ability to keep ad revenue within the show. Right. That very well might be the deal that's structured with Max, which would be great news for AEW, because one of the things that I've been so critical of AEW about is building momentum to your PLEs, your pay-per-views, because those should be a revenue generator beyond just your limited amount. If it's an enhanced thing on Max and you're driving more subscribers to it, then it takes the pressure off of that. Right. And then your pay-per-views can just be your 17-star classic Forbidden Door. Wouldn't it be cool if this guy fought this guy kind of deal?
Right.
But two guys that probably won't be competing in AEW are the Motor City Machine Guns.
That's right. Over the weekend, Friday, in the Wrestling Observer, it was reported that Motor City Machine Guns have reportedly signed a deal with WWE and will be a part of the company. Uh, people speculating, people
Yeah.
speculating that they'll be on NXT. Uh, I've made a case on my One True Sport hotline why they shouldn't be. They should be on the main roster. And you
The
also,
hotline now too,
yeah, I do it for OneTrueSport.com.
dude.
But
What don't you do at this point?
but you also on Working Stiff, I think on the Patreon you
On the
made,
Patreon talked about it, but the
yeah,
broad strokes for this year, if the Machine Guns wind up signing, I would want to see them on SmackDown.
yes,
I think that the audience in general is going to accept them as main roster folks from day one, from jump. They are big names. WWE is now not afraid to acknowledge other companies and can say these guys, TNA superstars. Um, we've seen them kind of interweaving on WWE programming in the past. I think that the opportunity for them to bolster the SmackDown tag division, where you would have the Motor City Machine Guns, you would have DIY, you would have Legado del Fantasma, you would have Pretty Deadly, you would have the Gorillas of Destiny, you'd have the Street Profits. That is a pretty healthy tag division to be able to bolster that show, where Raw kind of keeps forgetting they have a tag division to some
yeah.
degree. It's like JD and Finn are cannon fodder. Yeah, you could put the Guns on Raw, but I wouldn't. I think SmackDown is a better spot for them. They could go to NXT. I think they would elevate those guys, but I think they're big enough deals to be on the main roster. Kind of like how Dominic D'Angelo is a big deal, who has a hotline and also is the producer of a number of dynamic podcasts.
Ooh, that's correct. Yes, I am the producer and co-host of One of a Kind with RVD every Monday at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Rob and I cover some ground. We talk the Ultimate Warrior's farewell speech before his passing. We talk Hulk Hogan's RNC speech.
Before Hogan's still kicking.
Hogan's still going. And then we also talk Rick Rude and ECW. It's a fun, shorter episode, but a lot of fun, jam-packed with a lot of newsworthy items and stuff like that. So check it out. It's on rvdtv.com. Hey, you can also check out Straight Talk with the Boss, Magnum T8, and Greg Gagne. We have a new episode that will be dropping this Wednesday, and it's right before Greg Gagne got inducted into Waterloo, the Hall of Fame. He is a Hall of Famer now. Congratulations to him. So be sure to check that out tomorrow on fullhorsemanetwork.com. And Robert, we talked about a little bit.
Yes. So Working Stiff this week, myself and Scott Chapin, we rarely have guests, but we are going to have a guest on this week's show. I'm going to get a chance to sit down with Scott and talk to Tommy Blotcha. Tommy took over for Vince Russo as the head writer during the Attitude Era. Before that, he was a writer for Conan O'Brien. He has done shows for Adult Swim. He's done stuff with Robert Smigel. He has a weekly podcast called Tales from the Attitude Era, which I've been listening to now in preparation for this. It's a blast. It's going to be fun. It's getting any chance I get to talk to another WWE writer. It's usually fun, swapping a lot of war stories. He is very much responsible for Mae Young giving birth to a hand.
Is he?
So and he created Pimpbot on Conan. So it's going to be a fun thing for comedy nerds, wrestling nerds, Attitude Era fans, and all people. That Working Stiff will be dropping most likely Thursday afternoon, depending on what's going on with Mr. D'Angelo. But fear not, because we will be here every Monday through Friday at noon Eastern, live for Rumor and Innuendo. You can catch us on a plethora of podcast platforms, including on the WWE Creative _ish X account, the SE Scoops X account on YouTube, the Rumor and Innuendo ad-free shows and Working Stiff YouTube page, as well as an audio format on iTunes, Spotify, and the like. So on behalf of the pantomiming Dominic D'Angelo, I'm Robert Karpelis. Best of luck in your future endeavors.
I'm the man in the box.